So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Welcome back here at BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Friday, March 5th. Hope everyone's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day. Yesterday, it is in fact Friday, March 5th. We are now at the end of the week here today. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far. We are at Friday. We are now one day away from another packed sports weekend ahead of us. A huge weekend in college basketball. An absolute huge weekend in college basketball. This is probably the biggest weekend in college basketball, given that teams that are in the March Madness that are trying to secure their spots are playing. Teams that are still trying to fight their way into March Madness and are on the outside looking in are playing. Teams that right now are on the brink of losing their spot in March Madness are playing. Teams that are long shot bids, but this week a win would really help their chance, are playing. And you also have teams like Kentucky who have to win the SEC tournament in order to make the March Madness. So Kentucky can make the March Madness below 500. Any team can make the March Madness, but Kentucky's got to win the SEC. They've got to run the table. They've got to go through each. A lot of teams out there got to go through the respective conference tournament in order to win it. So Kentucky will play tomorrow against South Carolina. I'm feeling confident about the game because South Carolina's terrible this season. They do not have a good team. So I'm feeling a little confident about the game. But at the same time, I know it's South Carolina and it's Kentucky, and I know this team just can't get on the right track consistently. We get a good win, then we just lose 3 straight. We get a good couple wins, then we look flat, right? So we just got to find out a way to be more consistent. But mathematically, Kentucky could still make it. If we win the SEC tournament, we win it, we're in. No matter what. We're in no matter what. Whether you're below 500, whether you're above 500, whether you're undefeated, you're in. There's some other teams that already have automatic bids. Guys, teams like Gonzaga. If they don't win their respective conference tournament, it doesn't matter. They're in the March Madness anyway. So, Kentucky, we got to do that, and it's tough. It's weird saying that as a Kentucky fan, knowing that we aren't, possibly not going to make the March Madness. But at the same time, you just got to look at it as, hopefully this is a season to learn off of, and next season will be better. You got to look at that. But I believe in miracles and all that, and I hope Kentucky somehow wins the SEC tournament and goes all the way. But the chances are going to be small. Kentucky's going to need to do a lot. We're going to have to completely switch around. We're going to have to do a lot. Because we have to win the tournament. And we have to beat teams like Tennessee. We have to beat teams like Florida, which we have this season. But we got to see how it plays out. As for a recap, last night in sports, the Rangers dominated, played such a good game. I think that this might be the best game of the season by the New York Rangers yesterday. We won 6-1, dominated from start to finish. Just dominated. Chris Kreider with another hat trick. He's been hot lately. The Rangers are, winning. We're 5-2 in our last 7 games, which is really solid. So, as it looks right now, the Rangers are in a good position to, make a little bit of a run push here as we get deeper into the season. Rangers have a day off today. Nets obviously All-Star break. The entire NBA is on All-Star break, but we do have some NBA news today. But these are our podcast. These are the topics for the podcast today. We got Jackie Bradley Jr. rumors, or not Jackie Bradley Jr. Jackie Bradley Jr. actually signs with the Milwaukee Brewers. So, obviously, rumors have been going around on what he's going to do. He has officially decided to sign with the Milwaukee Brewers. And it's a good deal for the Brewers. Good deal for Jackie Bradley Jr. I'll tell you why it's a good move for the Brewers. Now, is it a World Series propelling move? No, but could it be a division move? Maybe. So good move for the Brewers. They're getting a very consistent and solid player in Jackie Bradley Jr., so we'll get into that. Then we got Blake Griffin and the Pistons. So the Pistons bought out Blake Griffin's contract, which is now leading him to be an unrestricted free agent. And the Nets are the front runners to sign him currently. And this all happened today. So if breaking news comes out, breaking news comes out. As it stands right now, Blake Griffin, the Nets are the favorites to land Blake Griffin. So I'm going to talk about we got bought out, and I'm going to talk about what the Nets could possibly give him in order to get him over to the Nets, and I'll tell you if it's a good move or not. I'm kind of iffy on the move, although I don't think Blake Griffin will be getting big minutes, but we have Blake Griffin, and then we have the New York Sports Update, like always. Obviously, like I said, today we've got nothing really on today, to be honest. All of my sports teams are off today. I mean, the Yankees obviously play today, which I'll be watching, definitely. The Yankees will play today. But other than that, not much on in the night games like Kentucky or Nets. Nets, obviously, All-Star break. Knicks, All-Star break. Rangers, day off. They play tomorrow again against the Devils. That will be their second game of what's going to be another 6-game road trip. And the Rangers, they played really well last night. I'm super proud of the way the Rangers played last night. We started off slow. We had, 5 shots in the first period? And then we started putting pressure on. And we didn't get many shots to end the game just because we got off to such a slow start. But and this is what I've been saying, the Rangers have gotten so many chances in games to take leads or win games. We are not doing anything with those chances, though. Yesterday, the Rangers converted on their chances. Did the Rangers shoot the puck 50 times? No. Did it take 60 times to shoot the puck and score 6 goals? No. We only shot the puck 20-something times. But we were, on the good chances we got, we were converting on those. And this is what you need. If you want to be a Stanley Cup winning hockey team, or in this case with the Rangers, a playoff hockey team, you got to convert on the chances you get. And the Rangers yesterday got a lot of good chances, and we were converting on those chances. And that's what we like to see. Too many times this year, as that Rangers have had great chances to take leads, to come back, to ultimately just boost your lead, or to ultimately win a game, and we do nothing with those chances. So yesterday was a pure example of the chances that you get. The Rangers converted on those chances. Scored 6 goals, won 6-1. The one bad news with the Rangers yesterday, Igor Shesterkin, our goaltender, who has been very good lately, got injured, non-contact injury. It looked to me that it was a lower body injury. David Quinn then said in his post-game press conference that it was a lower body injury. He said he would have more on it tomorrow. So tomorrow is now today, given that he said it yesterday, so we'll see how that plays out. But he couldn't put any pressure on it going off the ice. Luckily, though, we had a big enough lead there where we didn't have to worry about blowing the game. Although, as a Rangers fan, we know all too well about blowing games. So, Rangers moved to 9-9-3 on the season. We're 500, and then we have the 3 OT losses, which is I'm very proud right now of this team. You know, we've had a couple really bad losses this season, a couple really bad games, and to finally see this team stepping up and playing well is super exciting. So, that's my little bit of a Rangers talk there. But with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So report Jackie Bradley Jr. to sign Brewers contract after 8 seasons with Red Sox. So the rumors are over. The talk is over. This situation and that situation, and what if he goes here, and what if this team gives him this, and all that stuff. All that shenanigans is now over. Jackie Bradley Jr. has finally, this happened yesterday, so finally on March 4th, Jackie Bradley Jr. decides to sign with the Milwaukee Brewers after 8 years with the Boston Red Sox. And it is really pretty crazy that it took this long. Ever since the season was over, he was a free agent. It really is crazy that it took this long for the Jackie Bradley Jr. to find a team. And it's really crazy. And the Brewers now have officially put the icing on their cake to what they think could be a World Series contending roster. Now, does Jackie Bradley Jr. make this team an automatic World Series contender, or an automatic team that's a threat, an absolute threat for the World Series? I wouldn't say so. But they put what they needed. They needed another outfielder. They needed some depth, and they did that. So, I would probably say by now, free agency is pretty much over. I mean, Jackie Bradley Jr. signed. I mean, I guess you could say we're just waiting for Jake Odorizzi, but even in his situation, I don't think he's going to sign anytime soon. Although I did just a couple days ago say that about Jackie Bradley Jr. So I could be wrong. We all could be wrong. Who even knows? At the end of the day, it's the organizations, it's the GM. It's all them that know. So I could be wrong. Someone out there could be right. I don't know. Currently, if I had to put money on it, I would go ahead and say Jake Odorizzi isn't with the team this year. I think by March 5th, if you're not on a team, that's a problem. I mean, you got to realize we're already a week into Sunday. We're a week into spring training games. So then to just throw a guy into a roster is kind of a tough situation, which is why I think the Brewers went out and got Bradley, because he's an older player, he's a veteran, and he could be thrown into the roster. This is a guy that's not a young guy that you're trying to go out and he could be thrown into the roster, right? But the Brewers made a good move, and let me get into the Jackie Bradley Jr. deal. So as teams start to finalize the rosters, as teams, you're going to see slowly, week by week here in spring training, you're going to see teams, start to cut down some of those non-roster invites, start to give some of the bigger name players, for example, with the Yankees, LeMahieu's, the Judges, the Stantons, all those guys, some more playing time, some more activity. Stanton might get some outfield work, right? So you're going to see that kind of stuff. And as teams, players, they make some final decisions here and there, a couple little touch-ups, as I like to call it, a couple little touch-ups on the roster and get ready for opening day, we run past this signing with Jackie Bradley Jr. as Jackie Bradley Jr. signs a deal with the Milwaukee Brewers. I believe it's a 2-year deal and it's worth $24 million. I would have when I read this article though, it should say more on that, but I believe it's a 2-year deal. Jackie Bradley Jr. signs with Milwaukee Brewers, and it really is crazy. I mean, as a Yankees fan, I've seen Jackie Bradley Jr. plays millions and millions and millions and millions of time for a guy that was very loyal, didn't get injured much, played pretty much all 162 games of the season. He might not play every game, but he played for the most part of the games. I mean, you could say this guy, and it's the truth. And I don't want to, get too much into the ballpark and stuff, and I wanted to make this point clear here. The Red Sox at Fenway Park, and I've actually been there to see a game. It's a great place to see a game. Fenway Park is a very tough place to play outfield anywhere. It's one of the hardest places in the league to play outfield. And you might think that I'm completely running off track with what I'm trying to say here, but I'm not. I'm trying to make a point here. Okay? Fenway Park is one of the weirdest places to play outfield in the entire MLB. I'll give you an example. Right field, you have the Green Monster. A lot of people think it's easy to just catch the ball off the Green Monster and call it a day. It's not that easy. The Green Monster has all these different ricochets. You see players all the time. You even see, I remember when Gardner used to go, when Brett Gardner, when I went to the game, actually, you see it. Brett Gardner, every single time he went to Fenway Park, before the game, he would get 15, 20 balls. And he probably still does it. 15, 20 baseballs, someone would throw it off, because obviously Gardner plays left field. 15 to 20 baseballs, someone will throw it off. And that's a guy, too, that's in your division. He's in your own AL East. And he was so struggling. I remember he would get about 15 to 20 baseballs of just throwing them. And he would retrieve them and, turn and throw. It's a little bit of a mock. It was before, it was kind of when the players just got there. They would throw the ball off the wall, and he would retrieve it. Because the wall could take all different ricochets. Same thing in right field. You have the pesky pole. You have the short right field. You have the short wall, which is... very easy for players to forget about and fall over. We've seen that all the time. I think Judge actually did that once. He kind of dove into the stands a little bit. And it's short, too. It's very short. So it's tough for a player to know how much ground he's got when he knows it's so short. And center field, where Jackie Bradley Jr. played there all the time. And this is what not only made Jackie Bradley Jr. a good defender, but made Jackie Bradley Jr. one of the most elite defenders in baseball. One of the most elite defenders in Red Sox history was that center field. That center field with that little corner area, like it was like a little bit of a trapezoid, or like a little, that little corner area where you had the wall, you had the Green Monster, then you had the center field wall, and you had that area where it was like, where it had like, it came out, and then like it was like tucked back underneath. And the amount of plays, and I remember watching the game against the Yankees, the amount of plays he made against the Yankees. I remember the one game against the Yankees where he robbed Aaron Judge's home run. He jumped up, grabbed it, he robbed the home run. I remember that. It was crazy. He made that play, and that was unbelievable. It was an unbelievable play. I mean, it was obviously frustrating for me because I obviously wanted to see Aaron Judge. Obviously, as Yankees fans, you want to see your player hit a home run if he gets the opportunity to, and sure enough, he ended up stealing it. But I had to admit, it was a great play. It was a great play, and that's one of the all-time highlights. But back to my point here with Jackie Bradley Jr. is, you might think I'm crazy, but Red Sox in the outfield is a very hard place to play. And Jackie Bradley Jr. patrolled center field for 8 years with the Boston Red Sox. And he was one of the more dominant. And I would even say now he's still one of the more dominant outfielders in the league. I don't know if you could say defenders in the league. I mean, a couple years ago, he was probably the best defensive player in the MLB. That's including infield, outfield, all that. I don't know if you could say he's better than Arenado and better than some of those guys like that. But he's definitely still up there. And, guys like Judge, too. The newer era now. The newer guys into the league now are starting to make plays and starting to look good. Like the guys like Tatis Jr., they might be more up there now. And I'm not just saying that because I like Tatis Jr. and Judge. I mean, you can agree. Same thing with Arenado. Jackie Bradley Jr. a couple years ago when he was younger, he was still, I think Jackie Bradley Jr. now could still technically be one of the best outfielders in the MLB still now. But I don't know if he's the best defender now. He's still definitely one of the best because not that his defending's gone downhill. It's just the fact that there's so much other young talent that might be slightly better than him. But Jackie Bradley Jr. was unbelievable. I mean, he was unbelievable at defense, and that's really what really got his career boosting. And I look at this deal for the Milwaukee Brewers as kind of like a deal as like, you know what? We're getting a guy that can play defense. He's not that great of a hitter anymore. And I've always said this too, Jackie Bradley Jr. was never that great of a hitter to begin with. His strength was always defense. It was always patrolling that center field. It was always defense. His hitting was usually secondary. And especially now, as he's gotten older, he's 30 years old now, as he's gotten older, as he's gotten to the point of his career now where he's only got probably a little bit of gas left in the tank, his hitting has definitely gone downhill a little bit. But I would still say for the most part he's still a solid hitter. But definitely outfield was his strength, and I think that's why the Brewers are getting him. The Brewers realize, we could use some outfield depth. Let's go out there and get him. And like I said, is this a move that's going to make the Brewers an automatic World Series contender? I don't know. Sure, they're definitely going to be competing in that National League, and we knew that before Jackie Bradley Jr. got there. It's going to be the Cardinals. It's going to be the Dodgers. It's going to be the It's going to be the Padres. It's going to be the Brewers. It's going to be all those different teams. All those different teams, they're going to be battling it out in the National League. And we're going to see that. And I think the Brewers are definitely adding a key asset. And like I said, as he obviously played for the Red Sox for a very long time, and being in the center field, there was just dominant. And he's still got good speed to him. To be honest, he's not the same. He's not the same hitter. He's never been a great hitter. I mean, if you look at the lineup, the Red Sox, he was always usually batting lower in the lineup. So he was never a great hitter. But I think especially as he's gone towards the tail end of his career, he's not as great. He's definitely not as great as a hitter as he used to be. But I mean, he played in some of the biggest stages in the world, and he was so dominant. So he's going to Milwaukee now with the Brewers. And like I said, and this is another thing, too, that I would like to say here is, the Brewers aren't giving him $50 million. And I say that a lot. And I truly mean it. Like, you're not giving the guy $50 million. You're going to give him a good amount. You're going to give him $24 million. $12 million across the 2 years. You're not giving him a 7-year deal, $300 million, making him the highest paid player. You're not. You're giving him a good deal. You're getting him at a good price. You're getting a guy who obviously still wants to play and obviously is still hungry for, and that's another thing too. Jackie Bradley Jr., not only is he effective at defensively and on the field, but this is a guy too that does a lot off the field. He is very good with the younger players. And that's why I'm actually kind of surprised. I mean, the Red Sox got rid of him because of the contract. But in a way, I wouldn't be surprised if the Red Sox brought him back in like a 1-year deal just so then he could be with the young guys. This is a guy that's been around in the MLB for 8 years. So, and this guy has seen, he's been through the highest of highs, and he knows how it feels. He's been through the highest of highs and lowest of lows. With his time with the Red Sox had a pretty solid team, so a lot of highs there. But he's been on the biggest stage. He played in the World Series. Like, this is a guy that, too, not only is he good on the field, but he can also be a solid mentor off the field. And the Brewers could benefit from that. Any team can benefit from that. The Yankees can benefit from it. Any team in the MLB. There should be like one player usually you have that could be like that mentor. The Yankees have it in Gardner. Now the Brewers having a Jackie Bradley Jr. The Red Sox, I would say, having like a Xander Bogaerts, a guy who's been with the team for a really long time, is now here. Some teams don't have it, but some teams might have a guy who is kind of like a team leader. He's not technically, he might not be in the league a long time, but he might take over that role in a way. So, Brewers getting a solid player in Jackie Bradley Jr. here on a 2-year deal. So, report Jackie Bradley Jr. signed with the Brewers after 8 seasons with the Red Sox. Free agent center fielder Jackie Bradley Jr., who played for the Boston Red Sox from 2013 to 2020, has agreed to a 2-year, $24 million contract with the Milwaukee Brewers in free agency per ESPN. The contract reportedly includes an opt-out clause after the first season, meaning Bradley could become a free agent again next offseason. The 30-year-old is one of baseball's best defensive outfielders, notably sporting a perfect fielding percentage in 2020. The 2018 Golden Glove winner, he routinely makes highlight reel catches, such as when he robbed New York Yankees right fielder Aaron Judge of a home run in 2017. Yep. That play, I remember that play. That's that play right in that corner of that stadium. It's that weird area, and he robbed him. I remember that. It was a nice catch, but at the same time, he stole a home run from Judge, and the Yankees were losing 3-0, so it would have been nice to get a run on the board there. But per Baseball Reference, Bradley was also first in total zone runs in 2018 and first in center field assists in 2014, 2016, 2018, and 2019. Bradley fared well at the dish in 2020, hitting a career-high .283 with 7 home runs and 22 RBIs. His .8414 OPS was his best mark since his All-Star season in 2016. In between, Bradley largely struggled at the plate, hitting .234 with a 7.27 OPS from 2017 to 2019. The increase in defensive shifts have significantly hindered his offensive potential in recent years. Christopher Smith of Mass Live wrote about that rise in July 2018. Of note, Baseball Savant created teams with shiftings 51.7% of the time of the time in 2018, 68.8% in 2019, and 62% in 2020, compared to 33.1% in 2017 and 30.5% in 2016. Bradley spoke with Smith about the difficulties associated with adjusting to the shift. He said this: everybody's always saying, "Oh, just go to the other way." Yeah, you could say go to the other way, but if a pitcher is pitching you inside, are you just going to try to knife it the other way? Pitchers want you to manipulate your swing. They want you to get you to stop thinking about to try to do something different. They're okay with giving up a single compared to an extra base hit or homer. They're okay with that. Bradley did better in 2020, but he also benefited from some good luck with a BABIP of 343. League average is 300. He notably hit the ball hard, a career low 27.7% of the time, 27.1% of the time per Fangraphs, meaning regression could be on the way next year. That being said, fans saw a glimpse of his offensive potential in 2018. American League Championship Series against the Houston Astros, as he won the ALCS MVP, thanks to the base-clearing double, a grand slam, and a 2-run shot from games 2 through 4, respectively. Regardless of how Bradley performs at the plate, though, he should provide tremendous value for the Brewers defensively. He's been a part of some excellent teams, including a World Series champion, and brings the pedigree over to Milwaukee. The Brewers now sport a phenomenal defensive outfield with Bradley and return of Lorenzo Cain, who won a Gold Glove during his last full season in 2019. Cain opted out of the 2020 season after 5 games. Christian Yelich, the Gold Glove winner, too, have taken home the award in 2014. Milwaukee was looking for some extra outfield help after the team did not re-sign free agent left fielder Ryan Braun, who recently told Adam McCovey of MLB.com that he's not currently interested in playing. Bradley may not provide Braun's pop, but he offers a defensive improvement and should cover a ton of ground with the rest of his outfield teammates. At any rate, he is a solid pickup for the Brewers team looking for a trip to the playoffs for the 4th straight year. So long article there, but it kind of explains all that. You know how he's been very good. So It's obviously they, obviously it's a good move. And like I said, and that's what I was saying to you too. This is a team that's got a good defense. They got a good defense. And Jackie Bradley Jr. hit well last year, but he throughout his career is not. And the hard hit percentage, which is fine. You don't have to be a hard hitter to survive in the MLB. You could be a guy that gets singles, doubles all the time. If you could put the ball in play, I think that's all they can ask for. No matter if you're hitting it 100 miles an hour or 50 miles an hour. If you can get the ball in play, that's all that matters to a lot of these coaches. So, it's a good move for the Brewers. And they're adding on to what already is a stacked defense. This is a good move and a depth move. So, Brewers getting a solid player. Let's look at some of the numbers. So, it's definitely going to be odd seeing Jackie Bradley Jr. not, definitely going to be odd. But I'll tell you what, Jackie Bradley Jr. has had an excellent career, and we all know that. But, and I can't sit here and take stuff away from him. But to be honest, his hitting is good. His fielding is great. But if it wasn't for his outfield, he wouldn't have probably lasted in the MLB. Because, he's a guy that's a career 239 hitter. And he does play a lot of games. He played 55 games last season in the 60-game season. And throughout his career, 127 games, 156, 133, 144, 147. And in 55 last season, a 60-game season, he's played a total of 873 games, He's had a total of 2,899 at-bats. 435 runs scored, 692 hits in his career, which isn't that much considering there's some guys with 3,000 hits. Definitely not a great hitter. He's had some seasons where he's in the ones. His best hit season was where he hit 149 hits, and that was also his best batting average season outside of last year where he hit 267. His on-base percentage, 321, also not great, but it's pretty good. Slugging percentage, 412. OPS 732. See, the thing with Jackie Bradley Jr., he's not a big strikeout guy. He averages about 104 strikeouts a year, which isn't terrible considering some guys strike out 200 times. But it's just, I don't know what it is with him. He's just not great. He's just not a great hitter. It's how it is. Some guys are better hitters than others. He's had a total of 162 doubles in his career. He averages about 20 doubles a year. He only averaged about 12 home runs a year. His best season was in 2016, without a doubt. He had 26 home runs, 30 doubles. He batted .267. He had 149 hits. His walks were up, which means he was really looking at the ball well. His strikeouts that year were up. But that could also be the fact that he did play 156 games and he was able to get a lot of plate appearances and a lot of hits. So the more plate appearances you get, the more opportunities you're going to get to strike out and also get hits. But that 2016 season was definitely his best. It was his best all around. So, and he brings to the table some postseason hitting too, right? He brings to the table some postseason hitting. In the postseason, he's had batting average of 167, so he's played in 3 postseasons there. Slugging percentage, his postseason hittings isn't great, but he's shown flashes. That's another thing too. I think hitting's been flashes with him. He's been a lot of flashes. It's been a lot of he has these great moments, and then it's just back to strictly defense. In his career, 283 extra base hits. That's another thing too he brought up too when he was this is going really deep, but his stolen base percentage is .81%. He doesn't steal much. He stole stolen bases. He stole a total of 60 stolen bases in his career, and he only stole 5 times last season. And this is going really great. Caught stealing. Last year, he got caught stealing two out of the 5 times. So he went 2 for 3 last season. Or 3 for 5, I guess you could say. And then, the 1 year in 2018, he must have a fresh pair of legs under him. 17 stolen bases. He only got caught stealing once. So 16-1. That was his best percentage there. And in some other seasons, he didn't get caught stealing at all. This is going into the numbers. I'm just having a bunch of fun now. Just looking at some of these numbers. This is the stuff I look at. Like just some of the numbers, the analytic stuff. Like the extra base hits, the at-bats per home run, all this stuff. Secondary average, his sac flies, his all that kind of stuff. His ground into double play rate, his, pitches per plate appearance. His pitches per plate appearance, he's a guy that's going to work the count. He's about 4, in his career, he's about a 3.93 pitches per plate appearance kind of guy. So it's rounded up around 4-ish. So he sees the ball. He's about 4 pitches a plate appearance, which isn't terrible. I mean, Judge, guys like him, he can be up there within the 5-6 range. It's not good if you're low. If you're low, that means you're either grounding, and that means it's quick at-bats. Low, it could be multiple different things. If you're low, that could mean, if you're at like 2 pitch at bat, that could mean that that means your strikeouts probably down because you can't strike out on 2 pitches. But I mean, that could mean that your fly ball to ground ball rate could be up, or ground balls, or a lot of just if you have, I guess, maybe less pitches, because I mean, three pitches at bat is usually like three pitches. But yeah, there's so much different stuff on here. I'm just going through. I mean, plate appearances. He's had 3,281 plate appearances in his career. And like I said, it's a guy, too, that stays healthy. And as he's gotten older, he's been able to stay healthy. He's 2 home runs. This is his career stats, 239 batting average, 98 home runs, 376 RBIs, and an OPS of 732. So that's his career stats. So, the Brewers are getting one of the best defensive players, outfielders, whatever you want to say, in the league. So, good move for the Brewers, and we'll see how that plays out there. Comment down below your thoughts on the move. Next up, we got Blake Griffin. The Pistons buy out Blake Griffin's contract. And just a little bit ago, it was announced that the Nets are one of the favorites to land him. I will tell you what I think of this move coming up next. Alrighty, Alright, so let's get this up here. So Blake Griffin, some news today with him. So here we go. So Blake Griffin, Pistons reportedly agree to contract buyout after 4 seasons. So yes, you heard that right. 6-time All-Star, I believe he is. I believe he's a 6-time All-Star. Let's see. I think he was a 6-time All-Star, right? I think so. I believe he's definitely been to the All-Star game many times. But yeah, so Blake Griffin is a similar situation with Andre Drummond. But as we near the trade deadline, and as we near the trade deadline, really, I should just put it as that, is you'll see a lot of guys like Blake Griffin, guys like Andre Drummond. You'll see a lot of guys, either contracts are going to get bought out because they can't find a suitor, or they're going to be getting sat on the bench as they try to find a suitor to either avoid injury or just the fact that both sides are at odds and they're trying to trade him. So that's currently what actually is going on with Andre Drummond. And I was actually planning on, not so much today, but one of these days, talking about Andre Drummond, and just because of the fact that he's a very good big man, and the market right now, there's a report that came out yesterday, is completely dry, which means no one is interested in Drummond. No one's interested in him. No one's even making an attempt to get him. None of that is happening with him. So, a lot of that stuff going on. I was going to talk about today, but then, I'm not today, but one of these days I was planning on talking about it because the NBA trade deadline is March 25th. So, obviously the trade deadline is the time where teams can make trades and get full on ready for the second half of the season. And there's been a couple names out there that have been tossed around. As you all know, I play that game buy or sell. I've done it like 6-7 times on the podcast, a ton of times on this podcast. I play the game buy or sell. I'll tell you if I buy the rumor or sell the rumor. I'm going to do one probably soon of buy or sell NBA rumors. There's a couple guys that names have floated around. Lonzo Ball's name has floated around as a possible name. The Pelicans haven't been a huge disappointment this year. His name has been thrown around. PJ Tucker's name has been thrown around. Now Blake Griffin's name is obviously thrown around. He's now a free agent. Andre Drummond's name has been thrown around. He is now also, they're also in the works of trying to trade him. There's been so many different things. Guys been being thrown around. There's teams that are trying to sell. There's teams that are going to buy at the deadline. There's teams that are going to maybe add one or two more pieces to hope that what's going to propel them to the next level. Guys like JaVale McGee, all those different guys like that. So Blake Griffin was one of the players that turned into a kind of guy that the Pistons decided to bench him. Not so much. He hasn't played that great this season. But not so much because he was playing bad, but the fact that they were trying to bench him and they're trying to trade him. And a lot of times this happens to avoid injury, A, and B, sometimes teams do it, let's say they're not on the top of their game, their draft stock or their trade value could definitely drop if they see they're dropping. So, and if you get injured, you're not going to be able to trade it. You might be able to trade an injured player, but it's going to be really tough. And for a lot of teams that are at the trade deadline that are trying to find players that could help them right now, right this second, trying to help them for the second half of the season, injured players are going to be able to do that. So, to kind of give you a little bit of an overview on Blake Griffin, I'm sure many of you know him. If you watch the NBA, he's one of the more bigger names in the NBA. Obviously spent a lot of times with the Los Angeles Clippers, was in a prime of his career with the Clippers, and now decided to sign with the Detroit Pistons. Has had a couple good years with the Pistons. This year, for some reason, he just hasn't been able to do it. And I'll be the first one to say it. Blake Griffin, back a couple years back when he was with the Clippers, and even the first 2 years with the Pistons, he was solid. His second season with the Pistons, he was putting up 24 points a game. His years with the Clippers, you could say he was one of the best all-around players in the league at the time. He was a good defender. He wasn't a great shooter, but he could stretch the floor a little bit. He was he was probably one of the best dunkers in the NBA. And a lot of people talk about his dunks now that he can't dunk. Dunking doesn't mean everything. If you can't dunk, that doesn't mean you're good anymore. But he's nothing what he used to be. And part of the reason has been because of his injuries. He obviously suffered a really bad injury a couple years back that really derailed his career. And ever since that, he hasn't been the same. He's been injured. And that's one thing. And I've always said this. Age and injuries don't mix well together. Injuries don't mix well at all. And as you get older, they don't mix well even more. So, a lot of times, a lot of these things happen where as you get older, if you get injured, it's going to be bad. It's going to be a recipe for disaster. And that's kind of what happened to Blake Griffin. And when the Detroit Pistons signed him, they signed a healthy Blake Griffin. They signed a guy that they thought could make an impact. He made a solid impact for the first 2 years of his career there, was an all-star in 2019, where he put up 24.5 points per game. But then got the injury and hasn't been the same since. And obviously he hasn't been the same since. And it was a very big injury. It was a very big injury. And obviously he was traded from the Clippers to the Pistons in 2019. And obviously a guy that obviously is he has been healthier this season, but I think just the fact that injury and age is definitely taken over him. So he's now getting bought out. And now we're hearing today that the Nets are a possible contender to go out and grab Blake Griffin. And I think this would be an interesting move for the Nets. The Nets, sorry. And the reason I say is because Blake Griffin, if he comes to the Nets, he's not going to be putting up 40 minutes a game. He's going to be that guy that's going to go out there. He'll give you 6, 7 to 8 points. And he's going to do his job. Is he the Blake Griffin? If we're talking about the Blake Griffin a couple years ago, then I would take it 100%. All I would say with the Nets is I don't want to overpay here. Don't give him too much money. Do not give him million. Don't give him $1 billion. That's an exaggeration, but don't give him a ton of money. Obviously, in his contract, there's going to be a certain amount of earned and a certain amount of annual average value, but, AAV. But for the most part, don't give him any more than what he needs, is what I'm trying to say. And if the Nets go out there and grab him, and they grab him for cheap, well, you're not taking that big of a risk. Because, hey, we're in the second half of the season. Let's just say this doesn't work out. He's not playing well. Then, hey, at the end of the year, you say goodbye, you drop him, and it's another team's opportunity or whatever happens with him. And if it works out, then you go ahead and say, hey, we're not paying this guy much. He's being a key factor. Maybe at the end of the year, you go and bring him back. Just the one problem with Blake Griffin is age and injuries. And, hey, he has been able to stay healthy this season, but he's just not the same Blake Griffin we saw a couple years ago. And that's normal. You're not going to be great your entire career. That's why Tom Brady's so special. You're not going to be great. That's why Michael Jordan was so special. Jordan was still winning championships as he got old. That's why LeBron James is so special, right? So many guys like that. They're so special because even as they're getting older, they're still playing at a high level. And this is the case with Blake Griffin. Or this isn't the case, with Blake Griffin. And this is the case with a lot of athletes. As they get older, they're not really that great anymore. That's why you have your GOAT conversation. Guys like Brady, guys like MJ, all those different guys, they were dominant their entire career. And is Brady the Brady we saw a little bit ago? No, but he's still a very solid quarterback. And he's still winning Super Bowls. Blake Griffin isn't. So if the Nets go get Blake Griffin, give him the money he needs, not anymore. Because if you give him a lot, and he's putting up 10 points a game, and he's not playing well, and he's injured, that's another thing, too. You got to put the injuries in factor. Forget about the age, and forget about his stats. His injuries, too. If he can't stay healthy, it's a problem. So the Nets, I would say this. I would be fine with the deal if you give him the money he gets. Every player has a salary out there. His average annual salary, his value, boom, give him that money. Don't give him any more. Don't give him $10 more million to keep him here, right? Just keep him here. And who knows, maybe Blake Griffin wants to stay here and try to win a championship. That could possibly be a deciding factor. But what I'm hearing is the Nets are going to pursue him and probably get him. So for the Nets, don't give him too much. Give him what he gets, and that's it. And if it turns out to be great and he's amazing and he looks like the Blake Griffin that we used to see or somewhere close to that, then at the end of the year you go ahead and say maybe you rethink it and go ahead and say, hey, he had an excellent year. He stayed healthy, right? That's what I would do for those Brooklyn Nets. Now time to read this quick article. So Blake Griffin Pistons reportedly agreed to contract buyout after 4 seasons. The Blake Griffin era with the Detroit Pistons has reportedly come to an end. Per ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, Griffin will become an unrestricted free agent after agreeing to a contract buyout with Detroit. Wojnarowski added that Griffin has received interest from many of the NBA's top playoff contenders and is expected to pick a new home after talking with clubs in the near future. Griffin has played for the Pistons since a 2018 trade from Los Angeles Clippers. He was making $36.6 million in 2021, and he has a play option for $39 million in 2021-2022 per Spot Track. Piston general manager Troy Weaver announced last month that Griffin would be held out of games as the team explored potential trade and buyout options. Once an All-Star and an All-NBA regular, his status has taken a hit because of chronic injuries. He was limited to 18 games after two left knee surgeries last season and averaged a career-low 15.5 points, 4.7 rebounds, and 3.3 assists. While Griffin has been healthier this season, his production has not picked up. He averaged 12.3 points, 5.2 rebounds, and 3.9 assists through 20 games, showing a lack of burst off the dribble and essentially turning into a jump shooter. The version of Griffin who was once the NBA's most athletic player is nowhere to be found. This is a salary dump for the Pistons, who will likely continue being one of the league's worst teams into next season. Griffin will explore the open market and likely land with a contender that deploys him on a limited basis. See, the Pistons made that mistake. They got him, and sure enough, he was injured. Now, if he doesn't injure himself, who knows? And for a guy that was athletic as him, and for a guy that used a lot of his ability to jump and his vertical in his game, that's a lot of your legs and knees, and he got 2 knee surgeries. So that doesn't help. A lot of his game was athleticism, was the vertical, was using his lower half, and to get those surgeries like that definitely derails you. And at the age he's at now, definitely even hurts you even more. So like I said, the Nets, if you're going to get him, don't be like the Pistons and go out there and give him $40 million. Give him the money he gets, add him, and move on. And at the end of the year, so what? Okay, he's out. He's out. You didn't give him that much money. And if he does well, then you rethink it. But right now, it depends. I would like the deal depending on what the money is. That's how I want to put it. If we give him too much, that's a problem. If we don't give him that much, well, what's really the big risk factor? If you're giving him a little bit of money, what's the risk? What, he doesn't play well? Okay, well, then you dump him at the end of the season. So this was from Shams Charnia, who is a NBA insider. He tweeted this out earlier today about this thing. He said, the Brooklyn Nets are believed to be the leaders to sign six-time All-Star Blake Griffin. Sources tell me and J.L. Edwards III. Rival teams with interest are expecting Griffin to choose Nets as a title favorite for a chance to win a championship. Now, let's see. So Blake Griffin, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, he has never won a championship. No, he hasn't. Like I said, he played with the Clippers from 2009 to 2018, and was with the Detroit Pistons from 2018 to half of this season. So I was going to say, I believe he wasn't played with them. Let's take a look at Blake Griffin's numbers, though, here. And we'll get into our final topics of the podcast. So Blake Griffin, let's take a look at his numbers. Get this. There we go. So, yeah. So, this is it. So, Blake Griffin in his career, he's at 21.4 points per game, 8.7 rebounds per game, 4.4 assists per game. So, that's his career. Definitely on the older part of his career. Obviously, played all those years with the Clippers. He obviously played, the 7 years with the Clippers or 8 years with the Clippers. And it has played 4 with the Nuggets. And really, it's been not being able to stay healthy. And when he was healthy, he was playing 82 games, 66, 80 games, 67. Then 35 games and 67. And you can see it all drop now. It went from 67 to 35 to 61 to 25 to 33 to 75 to 18 to now 20. So it's definitely dropping. His field goal percentage has dropped. He was shooting over 50%. Now he's shooting 49.5% in his career. This season he shot 6.5%. His three-point percentage was actually, it wasn't great. It's never been that great, but this season it's even been lower, 31.5%. 33.1% in his career. Free throw percentage never was amazing, but even this year at a low, 71% this season, 69.5%. Now he's only played 20 games, so it's a small sample size. But when you compare him to some of these other seasons, it's still nowhere close. And obviously this year, he went from being a guy that, and like I said, with the Pistons, he had 24.5%. He had 24.5 points per game. That was actually the most he averaged in a season in his career. And it looked like he was back to being his old self. He played 75 games that season, and in the knee injury really derailed him. And he went from, now back to 12.3 points per game and 21.4 points per game in his career. And then obviously he went from 24 to 12 and now 21.4 points per game in his career. So definitely not the Blake Griffin we all remember, but it is still Blake Griffin. He's not that great anymore, but if you give him a little bit of money, he can go out there and give you a couple quality minutes, I guess, if you want to put it at that. So let's get into our New York sports update here to finish out the podcast. Let's get into college basketball because we got a lot to get to here. We got all the weekend games and stuff like that, so let's get into it. Yesterday's game, Texas won, Colorado won, Iowa won, Kansas won, West Virginia won, Michigan won, Texas Tech won, and Baylor won. Today we've got Loyola Chicago, Southern Illinois. I'll give Loyola Chicago the win. They already won that game. Tomorrow's games are looking pretty. Tomorrow's games are good. Let's see here. So tomorrow's games are big, like I said. So tomorrow we got Florida State, Notre Dame. I'll give Florida State the win. Alabama, Georgia. I'll give Alabama the win. Purdue, Indiana. I'll give Purdue the win. West Virginia, Oklahoma State. Give West Virginia the win. Villanova, Providence. I'll give Villanova the win. Illinois, Ohio State. I'll give Illinois the win. Virginia, Louisville. I'll give Virginia the win. Creighton, Butler. I'll give Creighton the win. And Arkansas, Texas A&M. I'll give Arkansas the win. That's your top 25 games. Now, the rest of the games here, Kentucky plays against South Carolina. Kentucky comes in this game 8-15. South Carolina comes in this game 6-13. This game's on tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ESPN. Now, I have said that Kentucky has not been playing well. But, and just because I take Kentucky here, I think they will get the win. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why, okay? South Carolina, if you've seen them play this season, or if you even look at their record, they're 6-13. Kentucky's 8-15, not that good either, but they're 6-13. And South Carolina has struggled on the road this season. They're 2-7, and they're 2-8 in their last 10, and they've looked ugly, and they're not a good team, and they're one of the worst teams in the SEC. So if Kentucky loses this game, that's really bad. So I'll give Kentucky the win. And as for the Sunday games, AP Top 25 games, I'll give Houston the win. Houston, Memphis, I'll give Houston the win. Iowa, Wisconsin, I'll give Iowa the win. Baylor, Texas Tech, I'll give Baylor the win. Michigan, Michigan State, I'll give Michigan the win. And Texas, TCU, I'll give Texas the win. That's all your games there. Alrighty, so NBA games, just give me Team Durant, I guess, in the All-Star game. The All-Star game's on Sunday, so that should be good, but no other games on other than that. As for hockey, yesterday's games, Canucks won, Flames won, Blue Jackets won. NBA, yesterday they played. So let me just read through those games. Yesterday, Trailblazers won, Suns won, Thunder won, Heat won, Bucks won, Nuggets won, Knicks won, Wizards won, and Celtics won. And as for the NHL, yesterday the Canucks won, Flames won, Blue Jackets won, Panthers won, Lightning won, Hurricanes won, Jets won, Flyers won, and Islanders won. Yesterday, the Rangers also won 6-1. We moved to 9-3 on the season. Big win. Kreider had 3 goals, Lafreniere had a goal, and Buchnevich had a goal, and Brendan Smith also had a goal. And obviously Kreider with another big hat trick. He's playing really well right now, and that's really great. As for today's game, we got the Bruins Capitals. I'll give Bruins the win. Lightning Blue Jackets, I'll give Lightning the win. Blues Kings, I'll give Blues the win. Ducks Avalanche, give Avalanche the win. Coyotes Wild, give Wild the win. And Golden Knights Sharks, give Golden Knights the win. And as for tomorrow's games, we got the Flyers Penguins. I'll give Flyers the win. Islanders Sabres, I'll give Islanders the win. Predators Panthers, I'll give Panthers the win. Jets Canadians, I'll give Jets the win. Maple Leafs Canucks, I'll give Maple Leafs the win. Let's see here. We got Wild Coyotes. I'll give Wild the win. Actually, I'll give Canadians the win. I'll give Maple Leafs the win. I'll give Wild the win. And we got Blue Jacket Stars. I'll give Stars the win. Avalanche Ducks. I'll give Avalanche the win. Blues Kings. I'll give Blues the win. Oilers Flames. I'll give Oilers the win. And then Golden Knights Sharks. I'll give Golden Knights the win. Rangers also play tomorrow. Rangers come in this game 9-3. Devils come in this game 7-10-2. This game come on tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find this game on ESPN Plus, and you could also find it on MSG Networks. So I'll be watching on MSG there. I'll give Rangers the win. Keep it going. We were 5-2 on the last 7 games. And then as for Sunday's games, we got Islanders Sabres. I'll give Islanders the win. Lightning Blackhawks, give Lightning the win. Bruins Devils, give Bruins the win. Panthers Hurricanes. I'll give Hurricanes the win. Capitals Flyers, give Capitals the win. Stars Predators, give Stars the win. And Flames Senators, I'll give Flames the win. Rangers also play on Sunday. It's a back-to-back. And you can find this game on NBC. This game comes on Sunday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on NBCSN and MSG. So you can find it on all those networks. I guess I'll give them the win, but it also depends on how tomorrow's game's going. So, it depends on how the game goes, really, and then for tomorrow's game. And as for the MLB, yesterday the Royals won, Cubs won, Astros won, Mariners and Rockies tied, Diamondbacks won, Indians won, Mets won, Giants won, Padres won, Pirates won, Rays won, Orioles won, and Tigers won. Yankees got hammered yesterday, 15-0. As for today's game, Marlins, Astros, got Marlins to win, Phillies, Pirates, I'll give Phillies to win. Red Sox, Rays, give Red Sox to win. Twins, Braves, I'll give Braves to win. Blue Jays, Orioles, I'll give Blue Jays to win. Then we got A's, Angels, I'll give A's to win. Dodgers, Royals, give Dodgers to win. Indians, Cubs, I'll give Cubs to win. Mariners, White Sox, I'll give White Sox to win. And then we got Rockies, Brewers, I'll give Rockies to win. Yankees also play today. Yankees coming in this game 3-2. Tigers also coming in this game 3-2. This game comes on today. I'll give Yankees to win. Keep it rolling. And then tomorrow and Sunday, I'll also give the Yankees to win. So let me just run through here. So I'll give Braves the win, Nationals the win, Red Sox the win, Phillies the win, Dodgers the win. So Dodgers the win, Royals the win, White Sox, Indians the win, A's the win, Cubs the win, Rangers or Diamondbacks the win, Angels the win. That's a lot of games. Astros to win, and I'll give Tigers to win. And then that's for tomorrow, and I guess the Yankees as well. And the same thing for Sunday. It's a lot. It's a lot of games. I'm going through a lot here, so bear with me here, but I'll give Astros. I'll give the Tigers a win. This is for Sunday's games, not for today's games. I know it's repetitive, I do this, but I always predict the games. Pirates, Orioles. I'll give Pirates the win there. Rays, Twins, I'll give Rays the win. Red Sox, Braves. I'll give Braves the win. Marlins, Mets, gotta give Marlins the win. Dodgers, Rangers, give Dodgers the win. Giants, Reds, give Giants the win. Indians, A's, give Indians the win. White Sox, Rockies, give White Sox the win. Cubs, Diamondbacks, give Cubs the win. Mariners, Angels, give Angels the win. And Royals, Padres, give Padres the win. And the Yankees, Phillies. I guess I'll give the Yankees the win. I mean, I guess you give the Yankees the win, but you also got to base off on the other games as well. So, that's what I got there for that kind of stuff. And then we move into fantasy. Fantasy, we've only got hockey, and that's it. Fantasy basketball, I'm currently losing 1,061 to 711, but there's a little bit of a halt in the action, obviously, because of the All-Star break. And in fantasy basketball, I'm also losing. In fantasy hockey, I'm losing 95 to 53, so got to find a way to come back here, but I've got going tonight. I've got going Steven Stamkos, Braden Point, Ansys Kopitar, Nicholas Backstrom, Braden Shen, Shea Theodore, Duncan Keith, and Jacob Scheistron. And today, I've also got John Gibson going. I made a roster move today. Let's see here. So, Jacob Markstrom upper body was activated from injury reserve Thursday. So, he was activated. So, I activated him from my injury reserved. And he is now my other goalie. And I dropped Mike Smith, who I had for a little bit there, but Jacob Markstrom is now another goalie. So, throughout the seasons, you always make little moves here and there, whether it's IR stuff or, adding a player just to fill that other roster spot. So, it's little moves throughout the season. Nothing crazy, but still a couple little moves. So, we'll see how it plays out. But, yeah. Enjoy another big weekend of sports ahead of us. Another great weekend of sports ahead of us. So it should be good. As you all know, I take breaks on the weekends, so I will see you all back here on Monday. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you all back here on Monday. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.